afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another Career Tip Tuesday. We are your co-host, Sherry Simpson, Makeda Matthews, coming to you with the new career tip for this week. I hope everyone is having a great start to the work week. You know the drill. Once you come in, please let us know where you are tuning in from, and we will go ahead and get started for Career Tip Tuesday. Makeda, how are you?
Hi, happy Tuesday. All is well. It's
Happy
Tuesday.
Tuesday. I know, right? It's Tuesday. That's all we can say. So today we're going to be talking about 5 career pivot tips for growth, right? And Maki and I were talking about this topic, and we really like this because I think this is a really great time to think about a career pivot if you need to. Thinking about today's climate. So we want to jump right in and kind of talk about this topic. So, what's your thoughts, Makeda? We're going to jump right into career tip 1, which is conduct a career alignment audit. What does that mean to you?
Mhm. I think we talk about this. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. All right. Good. Good. Just wanted to make sure. Maybe a little bit of marketing. A career alignment requires us to take a look at our career, where we want to go, and figure out how do we this, get that skills, what have you, mentorship, sponsorship, positioning. How do we align that to where we want to go? So, is it is what you're doing currently working for you? Is it
Right.
making you happy? Is it making you the money that you want it to make? Is it giving you the skills, the resources, etc., that you want to have? Do you have the right level of mentorship? Do you have the right level of sponsorship? Do you have the right level of championship? Do you have the right level of peer support and peers? And so you have to, take a look at. And I think the real question that you start off with is this working? Is this working for me?
No, I think you make a really good point when it comes to, conducting a career alignment SWOT. I guess some of the things I think about when I think about a career alignment SWOT is not just your current role, but I'm big on environment, right? The environment, is the environment still good? Is the leadership still, decent,
Mhm. That's
right?
good. That's good.
Um, are your core values in alignment with what's currently going on with the changes too, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Where's your mental health?
Mhm.
Is this current environment impacting your mental health? Is this
Mhm.
role impacting your mental
Mhm.
health?
Mhm.
So what do you now need versus what you used to need when you first started in the role? And is this still the right role for the long term,
Mhm.
for the end game, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
I think we should do that. But how often do you think a career alignment audit should happen?
Maybe twice a year.
Twice a year? Really?
Maybe twice a year. I that's hard because I think you need to, whenever some new season comes comes your way, and that does not mean quarterly. That means, are you in um a different time in your
Yeah.
life? So that's hard to answer, but when a new season comes, I think that's when you need to do your career audit.
I like that. I like that. When you say when a new season comes. We want to say hello to Trinice in Atlanta and Joanne that are watching, tuning in. Thank you from Dallas and Jersey and also from Austin. So no, I like that, Makita, because I do think thinking about a new season is important. I think sometimes we don't get caught up in the money, don't get caught up in, you know, if certain aspects of the job if you have perks. Because sometimes we
Mhm,
hold on to those
mhm,
perks and we hold on to the money, but we're not happy,
mhm, mhm, mhm,
right?
mhm.
So
That's
we
right.
definitely have to balance those things out. Happiness is important because if you don't have
Mhm.
health as well, if you're not right, all that still can impact your performance.
That's right. That's right. And we work way too hard to not get what we want. So,
Okay.
I, you know,
Yeah, we work way too hard for all that. All right, let's go to tip number 2, which is map out your pivot plan. This one I like because I think that when you talk about you feel as if
Mhm.
do an audit
Yeah.
every 6 months. And I feel as if we're going to do an audit every 6 months, we need to make sure that that plan is adjusted as well.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
so that means that, think about, I always talk about how you should make a name for yourself in your industry and not just on the job, right? So when you're thinking about mapping out your plan, you want to make sure that the industry you're in, that your skill sets are still in alignment and that it also matches your energy and what you're putting into it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, make sure that your salary is still where it needs to be. Because a lot of times you may be in a salary you're comfortable with, but there may be someone who comes in after you in the same role who may be getting a higher pay than you had 2 years ago because the market has
Mhm.
changed.
Mhm.
You should
Mhm.
always be doing an audit of your salary in your market as well. And what are your advancement opportunities in the industry, not just on the job?
Mhm. Mhm.
A pivot should be profitable and it should be intentional.
Mhm.
I think that's the
Good.
tip for the day.
I like it. Pivots need to be profitable and intentional. I like it. I like it. That's really good. That's really good.
Yeah, because every step you make should be keeping you marketable and giving you an opportunity to increase your income. But you should have an
Mhm.
increase in income potential.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, your pivot
Mhm.
should be profitable and should be.
Mhm.
Yep. All right. So number 3 is position yourself for the role you want, not the role you're in.
Well, that's good. I mean, you just said a pivot should be profitable and intentional. Excuse me. And so, if we are going to pivot, then you know, I, I guess how can we even think about staying kind of in the same sort of role or level, so to speak? And so, I think this is when you have to really lean on in the audit, understand what those transferable skills are.
Ooh, yeah. That's really good. And that means again in the audit, what are your transferable skills? How are you going to position yourself to? What are you going to do to
Mhm,
position yourself for the
mhm,
role that you want?
mhm,
And
mhm,
that's strategy, and it's going to take you looking and having the audit and then strategizing to position yourself for that. And
mhm,
then and then how are you going to do that? Is it going to be you doing a silent search for another role? Are you going to start positioning yourself in your current role with people, key stakeholders in the current organization? What
mhm.
does that look like for you? Is
Yeah,
it, what is it? You have to look at the currency of what you have and how do you increase that currency?
yeah, and you know, I think there are very efficient ways to go about it. So, for example, right, let's take Sherry, for example, who was in HR and TA and has had a multitude of roles. But let's say that, she's in TA and she wants to move and be in the science field because of all this environmental stuff going on, right? It would make a lot of sense for her to then begin to connect with TA professionals that are in the science field.
Absolutely.
That
Agree.
makes a ton of sense, so that she can begin to build her network in that industry, but truly understand what does it take, um, sure, to be a TA professional in the science field, but what is this? What the science field got going on?
Yeah.
What sort of networking conferences, so those sort of opportunities are coming up. Get you, Science Digest.
Yeah.
start,
Yep.
start reading, but connecting with people that are already in that industry, are already in that field, because people are your best resource. That, be very strategic about that. And you don't have to do it. You don't have to make this pivot alone. Lean on some folks, build those relationships. But there's a very strategic way to go about that.
No, I think it's great. You gave some really good, strong points when it comes to thinking about expanding your network in an area that you do not have a ton of knowledge and expertise in, as far as industry wise, even though you know what it takes from the skill set of what the core competency of what you do. So you explained in the detail of that beautifully, to think about, to give our audience something to think about when it comes to that. Here is your skill sets, but how do you transfer that
Mhm,
in a way, and then including in expanding on your network to do it.
mhm,
So that was
mhm.
very, very smart and strategic. What you shared was good.
Hopefully that's
Audience,
helpful.
please, if you have questions for us, please, would love to answer any questions you may have around, some of you who are thinking about a possible pivot, and what
Yeah.
that and may that look
Is
like. And don't let fear.
yeah, let us know if you're thinking about a pivot. We one of the reasons why we wanted to discuss this topic is, we had to ask ourselves, is this an opportune time
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of people to make career pivots? Thinking about domestically, internationally, industry wise, career journey wise, is this a good time? And, we thought, oh, this might be a really timely topic. So let us know even if you're thinking about doing a career pivot.
No, I really like this. So let's go ahead and go on to tip number 4, which is activate strategic conversations. Which you kind of talked about that a little bit.
Mhm,
You just talked about activating
mhm,
strategic conversations and what that
mhm,
looks like. Um,
mhm,
and I think, just to kind of elaborate on it a little bit more with detail, you know, tap one, like Makeda said, tapping into your network, but tapping into a network that you are not actually in that
mhm,
different, in a different industry, for
yeah.
example, as part of that. But also maybe even think about, when you are also asked those questions, maybe get some insight on what workplace culture looks like, what
Mhm,
leadership in that particular industry looks like, and then could there be some hidden roadblocks that you may not be thinking about that they could share with you, that you could start to prepare to work through.
mhm.
So
Right.
I think that's smart to think about as well.
All great tips. Yep. All great tips.
When you're talking about activating those strategic conversations, and don't be afraid to be in asking for opportunities too. Do you know of any opportunities, or who are you
Mhm.
connected with? And that, because you won't know till you ask.
Yeah.
And so
Shadowing. Um, yeah, always a
yeah,
good
yeah, I think shadowing is good too. All right, so at number 5, which is our last tip, was make the investment before the leap.
one. Okay. All right. Yes. I want to start off with this one. So I think this one is really, really, really key. Um, is we could do things very strategically, but we do have to look at our money. I do think we have to look at our money. And when, we say make the investment, what I think about is, again, the pre work, going to a conference. You need, subscribing, becoming a part of professional organizations. These things might take somewhat of an investment,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to consider this. Us in Atlanta, we love brunch, but if we need to give up brunch for 3 months to go to a conference and get the VIP package, so that we're talking to the um, industry thought leaders and we're having that one-on-one time, etc., then that's something that we need to do. So you know when we say make the investment, I think about the coins, right? But also the time. Um, again, spend some time researching the people whom are in the industry who you want to connect with. I'm going to pull out Marsha, a Marshaism. Don't send any lazy LinkedIn messages. Don't do it. don't do it. And maybe sometimes offer up to take that person to coffee to pick their brain or something. So when we say make the investment before the leap, I think of money and time. Sherry, what are your thoughts?
No, I mean, you couldn't have said it better, right? I mean, before you do make that pivot, like she said, investing in whatever training, certifications that you need to obtain, if there is some coaching from someone who maybe specializes in that industry or that market or whatever that is, you might want to connect with them. It really is, this making the investment before you leap is really about
Mm-hmm.
building your credibility in the industry before you actually start to put the work in to transition,
That's
right?
right. That's
Or
right.
look at, again, doing an assessment of your own inventory of your own skill sets and what you bring to the table to see if anything that you currently have in your scope of skill sets is already a value
Mhm.
that already can bring you credibility to the industry.
That's right.
Making sure you're clear on what that looks like. What is your value proposition?
Mm-hmm.
What you bring to the table as you are want to transition and pivot into that specific career. Be clear and be clear and do that
Mm-hmm.
first. So
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't mean you need to go and obtain 5,000 certifications.
You
What
don't.
you do is that you go
Mhm.
and you find
Mhm.
what is going to be the most impactful for you to make that transition.
That's right. That's right.
Sometimes, and I'm gonna say it, and some of you might be salty with me. Oh well, okay. You send me
Mhm.
a nasty LinkedIn message, whatever. But I think sometimes some Black women, I didn't say all, but some Black women get too caught up in I need 5,000 certifications or 5,000 degrees in order for me to feel like I am qualified or
Mhm.
know
Mhm.
all of those things. And you don't. That's not
Mhm.
necessary. What you
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
is you select what is
No.
yeah, look at the industry and see what the industry values the most in terms of certifications or education, right? And then
Mhm.
that's what you target. That's what you put your investment into because you know that's what the industry looks for individuals with these specific qualifications or education or certification, and you obtain that because that's where they see the value.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Exactly. So we have a comment from, excuse me, Tanya. Tanya. I'm sorry if I am pronouncing it incorrectly.
Yeah.
But she says, I'm currently in a career transition. Most of my background is in nonprofit executive leadership, but I've been exploring roles outside the sector as well. It's been tough because sometimes people don't see how transferable my skills are.
Mhm.
Even on LinkedIn, I've noticed folks are hesitant to connect. Interesting. Which has been surprising since it's meant for networking.
Mm. Yeah. So I think sometimes, and if you if you work in nonprofit and you are looking to possibly express, you're expressing interest in roles that are in corporate versus nonprofit. I hate to say this, but there are people who there's sometimes a stigma can come with that, right? Because they have a certain perception of what they think nonprofit is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that's everybody. Please, I do not want anybody to get any kind of, I'm just saying there are individuals who have certain perceptions of nonprofit executive leadership
Mm-hmm.
versus corporate leadership. So I think what you might want, and you may have already done this, but you may want to look at your nonprofit executive leadership. And if you are looking to pursue roles that are in corporate, then see how make sure that you are showcasing those skills in that same on that same level to show them as equivalent. Because sometimes a director in a nonprofit is not the same as a director in corporate in terms of level of responsibility, scope of work, and all those things can be different. So it could just be maybe tweaking a few things to showcase those leadership skills differently or in a way that is comprehensive and equivalent to what someone would see it in a corporate environment.
Yeah. Yeah. I um she follows up. I have
Work
something
for
else to
national,
mention, but
yeah,
she
provinces.
says, yes, I've heard that. I've
Mhm.
worked for a large national nonprofit and C-suite. Um, Gotcha. So Sherry, spot on. One of the other things that I might offer up is leverage your board, leverage the nonprofit board.
I like
This
that.
is where make the investment comes in. This might take some time, but it can be very strategic, right? Leverage your nonprofit board, let them know. Um, Maybe you might not want to let them know that you're looking, if you're not necessarily that close or comfortable with them, but offer up your time. Hey, I'd love to get to know you more and what you do. Can I come to your office? Can we spend an hour together? Can I come have lunch with you? And naturally, you'll run into people, right? And utilize that network, your board, to get connected, to begin to get to tentacles, somewhere else, just based off of that relationship. And, the person that you meet at the company Starbucks or in the lunch or what have you, or I've really, let this person know at the end of lunch, I've really enjoyed, seeing what you do, being in this environment. Do you think somebody else would be open to talking to me or having lunch or what have you? I might use the board to leverage getting access to a network again that we don't have access to.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think it might be even think about some opportunities that you could possibly even, like you said, with through the board, other volunteer opportunities. Maybe do your own research around titles and
Mhm.
uh, different types of skill sets that the different leaders in different roles have, from corporate to
Mhm.
nonprofit.
Mhm.
Again, try to make a correlation to match and shift change it a little bit, right? It's about positioning that your skill sets so that it feels, so they can see the equivalency of it coming into that nonprofit piece. um
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
and unfortunately, again, going back to what I said, it's that you have to be mindful of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have another comment from Leslie. First, well, thank you, Tanya. We appreciate you being open and transparent.
Mhm.
Another comment from Leslie. Hi, Leslie. Thanks for joining us. She says, I'm pivoting from being a negotiator of trade agreements. Ooh, that's good. Good
I
for
love
you.
mhm,
To a more compliance based role. I agree. It can be very difficult for people
to
to
see.
see how your skills transfer. People have been reluctant to even have an open conversation so I can explain how my skills um, can and do transfer.
Yeah, and I want to add something to this. And Leslie, thank you for being transparent. And I do want to add something to this. As someone who is a who has worked in former HR professional, worked as a leader in talent acquisition for many years. Um, I do feel that, yeah, the job market has shifted a lot. It really, there's nothing that has changed when it comes to the hiring process itself. What I mean by that is going through the initial phone screen, from phone screen to interview, first interview, second interview,
Mm, mm,
final
mm,
stage onboarding, right? What has changed, and this is just my perception of from someone who has lived that work, who's lived and breathed that work before. Yes, you do have, recruiters and leaders who have to lead recruitment teams who now have a high volume of candidates for positions. The roles I've always accepted when it comes to talent acquisition, I've always been a high volume type of recruiter, and led teams who manage high volume requisitions. What has happened is a lot of these recruiters, some who maybe are not used to high volume, that can be a challenge. But I also personally do think that a lot of these recruitment teams or hiring managers taking people through five, six, you know, 15 interviews is ridiculous
that's
and was
ridiculous.
unheard of. And before this shift came from the
Mhm.
pandemic, I do think a little bit of that is taking advantage of the fact that you do have a high volume of candidates instead of staying tried and true to what you were doing prior to. Yeah, you may miss out on a lot of candidates in terms of talent, But if you're looking through your talent you pool you have now to find the right people, it shouldn't take you 15 interviews from one individual to go through, because that's not good for a candidate experience either. And
Mhm.
I'm going somewhere with this, Leslie. So I'm saying this to say that you do have a mindset. There has been a mindset shift when it comes to uh, hiring processes and leaders who hire. So what they do is they think because they do have a higher pool of candidates to choose from, they may not take the time to really look at someone who, like yourself, is pivoting and maybe can really bring something amazing to the table, and not taking the time to really look at what you bring and how that can fit into their organization. They may just overlook that and looking for this cookie cutter so they can get the job, the role filled and move on. Because a lot of, and then I don't know who's on here watching. If you have someone who's watching who is in a talent acquisition, I can tell you right now, if you're not used to being a high volume recruiter, you can't handle that. And so I'm saying to you is stay very diligent and tenacious in the process. Utilize using your using cover letters to be very clear about what you bring to the table. um,
Mhm.
Going to the taking an extra step to find out who is the hiring manager, who's the recruiter for that position, and send them a message directly about who you are, what you're trying to accomplish, and how your skill sets would be transferable. And
Mhm.
sometimes you have to do that specific thing to help them to see.
Yeah.
Okay, Leslie T says that she is a recruiter. I would love to hear your thoughts around that, because I do think that you have specific recruiters who are not used to high volume recruitment, who that can be a lot of pressure for some recruiters if they're not used to that. So it takes a certain
Mhm.
type of recruiter to be able to know how to go through, how to work and manage high volume and still find
Yeah.
top candidates from that.
Yeah.
I shared this with Leslie because I just want to give her a little bit more insight that back in and ways that she can work around that. But yeah, Leslie, get creative. Find those hiring managers or find those
Yeah.
recruiters who are working in those roles and directly message them on LinkedIn. Hell, I've even sent my resume and cover letter on several jobs before to a president, to a CEO, and they have filtered it back down to recruitment. And they said, hey, this person looks like they've got the right skill set for this job. Give them a call. And sometimes they may have overlooked your resume through that process, but because it came down from a key stakeholder who said, contact them, they're going to contact you because that's a key stakeholder. So
Yeah.
it's about being creative in that
Yeah.
process and using some different ways to get your to make that pivot transit. And I've done this for a pivot. I'm telling you this because I've done this several times from a pivot from HR into career development.
Yeah.
It worked for me.
I think, just because the wins in terms of recruiting has changed, we might think about a recruiters roundtable. That sounds like it might be very valuable.
Yeah, I do think so because I kind of have I kind of have this push and this tug and pulls, about I kind of have like one part of me is like, I don't have sympathy for your recruiters because you should already be prepared for this. But then part of me is like, your responsibility as a recruiter, if you have hiring managers who are part of or collaborating with you to make this hiring decision, you absolutely should think about making sure your job is to be a consultant with this process too, not allow for your hiring managers to take, or even whoever is involved in that process, to take your candidate through 5, 6, 7, 8
Mhm.
interviews, or even 5 interviews and they're all 5 hours long. Come on, that's not showing respect
Yeah.
to a candidate. That's not being
Mhm.
mindful of their time, right?
Yeah.
I just have
Yeah.
a perspective about that, that we have to also remember as as recruiters, talent acquisition, and whoever's watching, you have to be mindful of the candidate experience,
That's right.
and do not just think because you have 150 candidates in a requisition. Look, I'm getting on my soapbox with this. I don't want to take up all the time.
No. Again, I think a
You know, my
recruiters
soapbox.
round. I think a recruiters roundtable might be something that we might want to consider doing because the landscape has changed.
Thank you, Leslie, for that. Leslie says the cover letter is one of the
Yeah.
main things she views because I need to see how they see themselves. I love that. Absolutely love that, Leslie. And then please share with me from your perspective. How do you feel? What's the landscape been like for you through this process? Because again, that's just one thought of what I have from being, in the
Yeah.
industry for a long time. But there could be some other perspectives, and I would love to hear those.
Yeah.
So Benicia says, how do you navigate from being told via HR that you have moved into the final interview process only to receive an email from the hiring manager? Sorry, I will not be interviewing you. I have selected 4 other candidates. Good luck with your search. Why, what, how can they do this? Well, it sounds like to me there's no
Communication,
communication.
collaboration.
Yeah. And that's what that goes back to what I was saying, is that having the
Yeah.
recruiter and whoever the hiring manager is responsible, making sure you all are collaborating, communicating. There should be a process that should be followed. A hiring process should be followed. So if there's a hiring manager who's interviewing, that recruiter should be following up and saying, how did that interview go? Are they going to the next step? There should be a process. And so I could talk about this all day long about how a candidate what you should expect as a candidate from an interview experience, what that really, truly, genuinely looks like, and what is bullcrap.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother video. Yeah. But yeah, that's what that is, Benicia. There's not there's the communication's not there. So if you're being told from HR that you're moving to the final interview process, but then you get an email, that either means that HR spoke too soon because the decision hadn't really been made, or there was just the communication was not there, nor was it a true process that was being followed.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, and that's what I
sorry
mean.
you had that experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I hate that you had that experience, but you hear a lot of horror stories, and this is what happens when you're not, as a TA department, that you have not created a streamlined process that everyone should be following and executing. And if you do it the right way, then people are consistently having a great applicant experience. Or if they still are passed or looked over for an opportunity, at least when they start talking on Glassdoor or Indeed or sharing their experiences, because candidates, there is a place on Glassdoor where candidates can share their interview experience. It's consistent, even though they may have got passed over. That's how you know that there's a good, strong process there. And Leslie says, I think educating candidates about our process is the tone for the company and the process. Absolutely. And educating those hiring managers, because those are the ones who need to follow what the TA department puts in place.
That's right.
Don't get me started.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I know we went over because and thank you. I got on my soapbox about that. Leslie, thank you for opening up the can of worms on that. Because I could go on for another half hour about that process.
Well, thank you all for joining us.
Absolutely. Now, real quick before we wrap up, we'll go back and we'll share the 5 tips for a career pivot for growth. 1 is conduct a career alignment audit. 2 is map out your pivot plan. You want to take number 3, Makeda?
Yeah. Number 3 is position yourself for the role that you want, not the one that you're currently in. And then lastly, number 4 is activate strategic conversations. And lastly, make the investment before you leave.
And we want to leave you with a career smart tip that we that we just started doing. So we want to leave you with a career smart tip. Pivoting is not an escape. It's a calculated step forward. Be intentional, be bold. Build your next chapter with strategy, not struggle.
Strategy, not struggle.
Yeah. Strategy and not struggle. Yep, absolutely. And then I am going to share with you all in the LinkedIn, inside of the LinkedIn live, a link for you all to access one of our career guides called the 6 Essential Power Moves that all Black women should know. And I want you all to please take that download it, and as a gift to you all for joining us today on our Career Tip Tuesday. And I'm going to put that link inside of the LinkedIn Live on our page. So appreciate that. And then if you all are new to who we are here at Black Careers Network, we definitely want to invite you to download our app from the App Store, from the Google Play or Apple Store.
Apple Store. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And be part of our community.
Yeah. Love to have you.
All right. Okay. Well, I think that's a wrap for today. Then. Today's Career Tip Tuesday. We thank you all for joining us. I know Makeda and I both have to run. Again, thank you. We hope you have an amazing rest of your work week. And we will see you in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
All right.
Bye, everyone. Take care.